Thank you, Georg. Thank you to the program committee for inviting me to take part in this session, and for you for being here. I feel a bit like someone from the old world who is trying to adapt and transform to this new world. We are a content company. We base our content development on technology, and our content is intended mainly for technology use. The company is 20 years old. We are well known in the dictionary world. There are millions of users of our dictionaries around the world. We are not publishers. Traditionally, we cooperate with publishers, mainly in recent years with various technology companies, etc. But actually, we are thinking about the next step beyond dictionaries, about language technology, including translation and other things, and how to use the resources that we develop in order to have them incorporated in sophisticated LT tools and systems. Basically, this is the environment we're in. This is the direction that we see the dictionary world and language going to. Just to give you an idea of the background of where we are. And this is what leads us to work and think in different ways, because we are no longer thinking of just developing dictionaries, but of developing multi-language lexical databases. First of all, what we do is we look at each language per se and try to deconstruct it in order to find the fundamentals of that, the atoms and quarks, if you like, and identify them. The words to begin with, in some languages, dictionary is a word book, like in German, Wörterbuch, but it's already beyond that. We know about phraseology. Today we are talking about patterns, and actually what is interesting for us is to look at the language as a whole today. Once we're there, we can begin using the different elements that we have identified like a sort of Lego to build them in different ways, also in combination with other languages. And in that stage, there is the delicate adaptation of the different language pairs. Because here, something which I would like to mention, which has been going on throughout the day. When we are talking about language technology, the way we see it, maybe as someone from the content side and not from the technology, these are very unequal partners. Technology based on mathematics, 1 and 1 are almost always 2. In language, 1 and 1 are almost never 2. So this is the reality that we need to look at. These are the main elements that we try to identify when we work on each language. So we begin by developing a monolingual data set, and from there we go to the multilingual, to the bilingual, and to the various networks, because once we have a certain data set with different languages, we can begin looking at it from different directions. Actually, this is not true. We would like to do that. We don't have the means to do that so far. This is what we are aiming to arrive at, having each language as a center of the world, that being able to communicate with any other language. So we're working on that very slowly. These are languages we have so far. So altogether, they happen to be 24, and exactly a dozen of those that you saw first are those of the EU. The other dozen are others. Let's see a few samples. So this is a very simple entry for Dutch, a word with just 2 meanings. without any phrases or synonyms and other additions added to it. So this is the initial work which is done to map the language. Here we can see the major European languages that are added is translation equivalents for each sense and for each example of usage. From here we can look at a certain language pair, in this case French, and start working with just two language combination. We could here look at a certain thing in French, and I chose this tombe, je tombe, and we could click on that and go into the French. So this is what the French to Dutch will look like. Tombe is already a much more complex word. Here you can see it does have various phrases associated, etc. And just to give you a glimpse, this is French with many more languages that have been translated to it. One thing which we have not arrived at yet and which we are interested in is actually, since we have French translated to all these languages, and each of these languages serving as a source, as a monolingual source itself, as I've just showed you for Dutch, to go on into those different connections back and forth of the different languages, go from the French to the Arabic or to Chinese or to German, and then the German is translated to Dutch and Norwegian, etc., etc. And those are the kind of complex networks which we would like to arrive at. When I'm talking about the post-dictionary, basically it's for the idea of application in language technology. Naturally, first of all, the machine translation, but beyond that, for language learning, very important thing. Word processors, search engines, all of these are examples getting to the more sophisticated things of speech recognition, talking to your fridge, and stuff like that. The bottom line is that we actually got into this multi-language project 8 years ago. That's when we began working on it. Halfway through, 4 years ago, our company had 18 employees. We employed over 100 freelancer lexicographers and translators around the world. We were dealing with millions of euros, and we were completely self-relied. Today, we actually have lots of language combinations and data which is very valuable. However, we are much smaller. The whole environment we're working on is going through a great crisis. Just to give you a few examples of big names here, first of all, in Germany, which in a way continue to exist artificially, perhaps, or not at all. Longman, for example. On the other hand, what we see is the major technology companies who are getting into this field, and this is putting us into a very big crisis because our work is extremely slow and long. It's very tedious. We are like marathon runners. It's Herculean in a way, or Sisyphean. It's all Greek. It comes from Greek. And we have been doing it all on our own so far, and we realized that we need to open up and work with others in all kinds of different ways to get help for what we are doing. We believe in the multilingualism that we're involved in. We think there's fantastic opportunities in Europe because what some see as weaknesses are actually great assets here. And overall, we are trying to work, or we hope to arrive at some strategy which will bring in these things of definitely there is need for standardization, there is need for long-term investment because these things take many years to develop, for the solid framework, and naturally for cooperation with other businesses and the academy. Thank you.